Welcome to the Drum Shuffle, a podcast offering insights, perspectives, and conversations for drummers. I'm your host, Jamie Eads. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Drum Shuffle. Jamie Eads joining you as always. This is episode 22. Hope everybody's having a great week out there. We have a fantastic show for you today. We are going to be joined by the great, the fantastic, the super Michael Miley of Rival Sons. Miley took a little bit of time off from his tour of Europe with Rival Sons to talk to us. So we're going to be joined by him in just a second. So please stay tuned. Los Cabos drumsticks may be the best kept secret from drummers today. Los Cabos Drumsticks makes the finest tools to touch a drummer's hands in the business. The best news, almost every popular stick size is available in both white hickory and red hickory. If you don't know what red hickory is, it's made from the heartwood of the hickory tree, unlike regular white hickory, which is made from sapwood. Red hickory drumsticks will hold up to even the hardest hitting drummers. Their durability comes from the density of the wood, but they do not sacrifice the feel. Please visit LosCabosDrumsticks.com to learn more about their products. And don't forget to ask at your favorite retailer for Los Cabos drumsticks. We are very pleased to be joined by Michael Miley today. Miley took some time away from his tour of Europe with Rival Sons to talk with us, so we really appreciated him doing that, hooking up with us on his day off in Bergen, Norway, to talk with us. Now, I'm of the opinion, and I think I may even say this during our interview, Miley really is kind of the closest thing to Bonham we have today. Rival Sons has put out a handful of records, really, really great rock and roll band. They are bringing it true to the term rock and roll. Just a huge fan of his playing, and he's a really cool guy. So I hope you enjoy the interview. Without further ado, let's welcome Michael Miley to the Drum Shuffle. Good afternoon, Miley. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. Let me say, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got a day off in Norway today. It is just after 8 a.m. here in the States, and I know it's mid-afternoon for you, so I appreciate you making this work.
No worry. Yeah, I'm in Bergen, Norway. Tomorrow, we play with Queens of the Stone Age at Bergen Fest. So looking forward to that. Good old John Theodore's drumming with them. And it's going to be real fun. Yeah, for sure. Well, and I know that you guys are doing, a couple of weeks, but here towards the end of June, I know you're doing a couple of dates with Guns N' Roses. You got to be looking forward to that as well. Oh, yeah. Frank Ferrer is a good friend of mine. He's a drummer for Guns N' Roses. And I always mention the other drummers because it's when you get out on tour, it's always like a kind of reunion of friends out here. You see It's more about kind of the reunion for me than, of course I grew up cut my teeth on Guns N' Roses, Sure. And their music. Pardon me while I pour a hot cup of coffee here.
Yeah, no problem. I'm having some coffee myself. Miley, I've been doing this show since back in February, and far and away, the two guys that I get asked to have on the show most often are you and Peter Criss. So, everybody is buying on Rival Sons, no doubt about it. And, when we've talked in the past, we kind of talked about your, I think everybody knows you grew up in Long Beach, California, and everybody knows how you kind of got into the business. So I'm not going to bore our listeners with that. But tell us a little bit about who some of your early influences were, and I think that will lead us in a pretty cool direction here.
Yeah. Well, I would say first and foremost my dad, because without my dad being such a muso, like, you know, he was buying records and looking to see who was playing, who played what on what album, and he would be telling me, you know, that's Joe Walsh on guitar, that's Steve Lukather on guitar, that's Jeff Porcaro on drums, that's Jim Keltner on drums, that's Rick Marotta on drums, that's Steve Gadd on drums. I, at a very young age, took an interest to the drums through my dad just playing music all the time. I mean, I had constant soundtrack going, whether it was at home or in the car. And my dad played guitar as well. So I'm very lucky. And my mom and sister as well were super into music. And my older sister was into like Paul McCartney and Wings, and to U2 and Echo and the Bunnymen, and a lot of new wave stuff in the 80s. And so I was exposed to like huge, my cousins played me Iron Maiden and Motley Crue and, you know, Dokken and like
Sure.
Metallica. I was into everything, man. And then high school, I got into Jane's Addiction and Soundgarden and all that. So and Frank Zappa. I joined jazz band. So my dad kind of kicked me off into these directions, all these different directions. And so, but one, you know, a few that stand out: Steve Gadd, Jeff Porcaro, and John Bonham, I would say, are probably like kind of the first three that I listened to, and I really said, yeah, I'm going to be a drummer.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think some of that stuff comes through in your playing as well. You know, I kind of ribbed you a little bit, and I said, you know, you're the closest thing to Bonham we have in this day and age. And I meant that, you know, as the ultimate compliment, because, you know, I grew up a huge, you know, Bonham disciple. But, you know, I think Rival Sons music kind of lends itself to those big, heavy grooves. And it certainly shows that you listen to Bonham quite a bit. And, you know, I mean, is it fair of me to say that you are, you know, a heavy groove oriented drummer? I mean, that's what I hear that comes through.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've never really analyzed, myself that deeply, but, I would say it's hitting me really hard right now that Scott and I started this thing in 2005, and I played a 26-inch kick drum with my old band, and when I was gigging around Hollywood, I was always playing with a 26, and that was kind of like my thing. And so we kind of developed the sound around this band, around big drums, and then Scott's humongous riffs. So putting the big drums to a big riff is a pretty tried and true formula, you know? I mean, I think Keith Moon and Pete Townsend did it. I think Clapton and Ginger Baker did it. Mitch Mitchell and Jimi Hendrix did it. All of the great guitar bands always had like a really big, great, ringy, open drum sound, at least from the 60s. And so the riffs that we were writing, I mean, it would not sound good with a tight 22 by 18 with a pillow inside. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's just naturally, this sound kind of naturally just progressed, and we've done every album with Dave Cobb with the same kick drum. We've used my Mayer Brothers 26 by 14 or 14 by 26, whatever you say. If you're sorry for all the drum nerds out there, I think it's 14 by 26 kick drum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kick drum's been on every record, and we've had the same sound man since we started touring, and so the drum sound for Rival Sons is a pretty distinct sound.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. And, what's cool about, Rival Sons is when I hear a song for the first time by you guys, pretty much within the first couple of bars, I go, oh, yeah, this is going to be a Rival Sons song, right? I mean, even if it's the first time I've heard it, I mean, it's very distinctive, which I think is great in this day and age, that it is recognizable. It's going to be a big riff with, that groove, which I think is just, it's your calling card, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Is it something that, I want to talk a little bit about your writing process. Is it, and I know it's been well discussed that you guys pretty much write while you're in the studio cutting the records.
Yeah.
So is it typically, you and Scott, kind of coming up with Scott coming up with a riff and you putting a groove to it and then everybody else kind of falls in? Or how does that writing process work with you guys?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So the first 4 albums, we have six records we've done. So the first one was kind of self-produced. First and second were self-produced, and then the next 4 are on Earache Records. But we would come in, set up, we'd get drum sounds in like 2 hours. Like it would less than 2 hours. Just line checking all the mics and then by day one, everybody's line checking, getting sounds, and Dave Cobb works so fast, and he's always had great engineers to help us get the sounds we want, but we always get the sounds so quickly. And the motto has always kind of been with us to no overthinking, because once you start overthinking, then you just waste time. And so yeah, Scott will have a riff, or I'll be like tinkering on the drums, and Dave Cobb will be like, "Hey, that's a cool groove, so, write a riff over it." Or the bass player will come in and he'll have an idea. Sometimes Jay will have a full idea with chord changes and lyrics already done. But to the stuff where it's just like drums and guitar and bass on the floor coming up with a riff, and a verse riff and a chorus riff, and how many times we want to do each, and sometimes we'll be Dave Cobb will be recording, and we're going like 8-bar verse, 8-bar chorus, and just kind of looping it just to get a feel. And then Cobb's like, "Hey, I got it. You guys can come in." And we're like, "Dude, we're still working it out." And he's like, "Oh, no, I got it." and Jay's in there writing lyrics, and then Jay'll go in and then throw a vocal on top. We've done it so many different ways, but that's where when the fun is when you think we're just like, I'm just throwing ideas out, and then he's hitting record and it's going to the album. Like, oh,
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I mean, I think that's, kind of a secret weapon, having a producer like a Dave Cobb that just has such an ear for, we definitely want to grab this. And, I've heard that he basically always has tape rolling just in case there's magic that happens. Oh, yeah. Like you said, tinkering around behind the drums. He just has such an ear.
Yeah. Yeah, even the albums we've done on tape, I'd say we've done half our albums on tape and half on Pro Tools. We always do an A/B at the beginning of the process. What Cobb is always changing his gear, so sometimes he's got like a Helios desk, and so we got some great mic pre's in each of those channels, and then for some reason we'll run it through tape and we'll run it through Pro Tools, and the analog board into Pro Tools actually is more dynamic, and the kick has more balls. The drums and bass, will have more balls on the Pro Tools, and then we'll go in to make the next record, and he's got a different board and a different tape machine, and then we'll all choose the tape machine. Then we'll go to tape. But even if we go to tape, we'll have Pro Tools running the whole time, just in case. Because you can't. I mean, we're not like Metallica or Iron Maiden or, big budget stuff where you just have tape rolling.
Right.
It's expensive. You need hard drive space to do what we're doing, basically.
Yeah. And the joke is, I had Mike Fraser on here recently on the show, the great, recording engineer, mix engineer. And he said, sometimes I go to a studio and we can't even get a roll of tape. If we want to do stuff analog, it's just hard to find, Yeah. So it gives you the maximum flexibility. I know that you guys, obviously you're in Europe and you guys are still touring, the cycle for Hollow Bones. I know that, when we talked last, I think the new record is pretty much in the can, right?
Yeah. We just finished recording our newest album. It's going to come out on Atlantic Records. We're really fired up. We're shooting for September, so crossing fingers. Everybody out there who's a fan, cross your fingers. We would love to have it out by September. I wish this thing that boils water would just not do it automatically.
The life of European hotels, right?
I know. It's great. They have the best coffee over here in Europe, by the way. I love European coffee. Like every European country has, they do it strong here, and
bringing the heat with the coffee.
Yeah, like they don't do Denny's, like brown water coffee.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's fantastic.
But yeah. Anyway, sorry I got off topic. But yeah, we have an album coming out. We're in the mix process right now. It's pretty exciting to get the mixes, and we're on the road, so everybody's taking their headphones, and we're listening on like little boom bottle from like a Scoche, the car stereo company Scoche. They give us a bunch of headphones and boom bottles and stuff, and so we sit around with those and listen to the mixes and put them in headphones. If we have a runner that's out here on, like at the venue, sometimes they'll have a runner that'll go to the store for you and stuff, and we'll jump in their car and listen, because you want to get as many different ears and mediums through which you listen to the music. So that's pretty exciting, and we don't know what we're going to call it yet, but we're putting the artwork together. Everything's coming together right now, so it's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And we're all looking forward to it. I would be remiss if I didn't, at least talk about Electric Man for a second here. That was where, I was an early adopter of Rival Sons, being a musician, being a drummer. When you guys put the first record out, I was all in immediately and was like, oh, wow, here we go. When Electric Man hit, I started noticing my non-musician friends were like, oh my God, this is incredible. Is the new record going to kind of be in that same vein, or, has there been any change in sound? Can you give us a little bit of a preview? I mean, what are your gut feelings on the new material?
Man, it's so diverse. We have the riffs, we have the riff rock, we have some exploratory stuff, meaning like I'm not talking about like Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd's exploratory, but we thought just more like there's a more acoustic guitar like intros, and there's a lot more acoustic guitar on this record. But don't be swayed. It's still we got the heavy rock is all over the place. But there's some we call them album tracks. Like, I don't know if you in the business, like you have your songs that can be singles that can go to radio, and then you have your album tracks. And I tend to be with every band that I love. I always love the album tracks, the 5, 6, 7 minute songs.
Yeah.
that goes somewhere have a longer solo, a longer outro. It's not just the 3.5 minute wham bam thank you ma'am song. So we have a little bit of everything, and I think it's like it's we were talking about on the bus last night. It's like Rival Sons grown up, but not playing like old man rock. It's like it's still fresh, and so when I say grown up, I mean like going from kids to 21 years old. Now, we can drink legally now. So it's 7 records into our career, and I think it's like the amalgamation of everything we've done. We still haven't repeated ourselves. There's I think the only place we've ever repeated ourselves that one could argue is our song Jordan and our song Where I've Been. They're very, very similar tempo, slow 6/8 ballads, 12/8 depending on how you want to count it. But we really try hard not to do the same riff over and over again. The same feel. That a lot of bands are guilty of having that kind of same formulaic riff, and maybe we're dumb for not doing that, because like I think AC/DC's built the best career ever doing kind of their formula, but yeah, it's a lot of different stuff. There's heavy, there's fast, there's slow, there's beautiful, there's raucous, there's gospel choir, there's a lot. We had the girls. I don't know if you remember the Black Coffee song on Hollow Bones.
Yeah.
We got those same girls on like 5 or 6 of the songs. So we got a lot more background vocals. I'd say that's where we expanded the most. Todd, our keyboard player, flew out for a bunch of the sessions, so he's on a lot of the tracks. Yeah, drums sound amazing, man. I used a Gretsch round badge, red sparkle round badge. It was beautiful. I think Dave Cobb's is 24. I forgot if it was a 24 or 26, but there's a couple tracks that have this Gretsch drum set. And then there's some Mayer Brothers kick drum with the Gretsch toms and Gretsch snare. I had a 5.5 by 14 hand hammered brass snare, and I usually use 6.5, but it was sounding so good at RCA and Cobb Studio.
Well, and you bring up a great point mentioning, RCA Cobb Studio. He's now obviously in RCA A in Nashville. He took that over from Ben Folds. I guess it's been a couple years back now. But there's been some just incredible records come out of there since Dave moved in, and we just recently had Chad Gamble from Jason Isbell's band, on the show. And, I said to you, everything Dave touches now turns to gold. Are you guys hoping for gold or platinum?
I prefer platinum, multi-platinum.
No doubt.
I would love to add to his trophy shelf of Grammys. When you go into the mixing room at Studio A at RCA, Cobb's got I think he's got 4 up there now, 4 Grammys. And so we're looking to add some. How about best male vocal performance, rock album of the year? What else would we be up for?
Song of the year? Why not? Right?
Song of the year. I'll take 3 Grammys next year. How about that?
That sounds perfect. We'll see what we can do about that. But I mean, we were joking around about that. I mean, Dave is just, an incredible producer. So, you were talking a little bit about the gear that you recorded on. I'm curious to know, once you get line checks done on your drums and you're sitting down and you're ready to start, recording and cutting a song or whatever, I'm guessing that you guys are pretty much off the cuff, first, second take on almost everything. Does he does Dave say, okay, Miley, let's go one more time, or is it pretty much first and second take stuff for you guys?
It's both. There's some stuff where Dave keeps us on our toes, man. Like sometimes I'm pretty meticulous. I'm got a music degree and it's not that I like bring, nerdy music degree crap into the studio, but I am a perfectionist. I hear stuff a certain way and phrasing, and I always like phrasing to be the top of my list. Sometimes a fill into a chorus can be a hook. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, let me get another take. I think I got one I want to do. And he's like, no, we got it. So then it's like it goes to the grave. It's on tape, and they're already overdubbing on that take that I didn't want.
Yeah.
But you slowly get used to it. Then there's like, okay, that was the take. I just got it. Because most of the time, when you're tracking everybody on the floor, like the very least, Cobb wants a good drum track. So, and if everybody else, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. If everybody else does good, then they keep that. But at least you want a good drum track off the floor. So sometimes I'm like, dude, that was it. That was the take. And he's like, let's just get one more. Trust me. And sometimes he's doing that because he knows he's pissing me off, and and so I might play with a little more anger. You know what I'm saying? Like
sure.
In a fun way. It's not like beat up Dave Cobb, but although there's sometimes I do want to beat him up, but it's brotherly love.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the mark of a great producer, is to know, how to get the best out of the players in the band, right? I mean,
yeah.
There's a producer that I work with quite a bit, and sometimes he'll say, man, it's just not good enough, and it gets me fired up, and then I go, do one more take, and he's like, yeah, there you go. I just had to get under your skin a little bit. And that's what's so cool about us drummers is, sometimes we get in our own head too much when the red light comes on, and we freak out a little bit about, oh, okay. And you're in your own headspace too much, and you just got to get away from it and get mad and, cut a really good take. So I'm really curious to hear, the new record, and obviously we've got a little while to wait. Can
I comment on that last thing you're talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
It's just anybody listening. This day and age, you got guys using Pro Tools and Logic and real easy editing programs. I don't know if this is, what do you call it? Like bad advice or good advice, but it's worked for me. You can go in there and if you totally mess up, you can go in there and edit a bar or a beat or a 4-bar phrase, whatever. Like, knowing when I go in there, knowing I can edit like, so out of 3.5 minutes, if one fill sucks, I mean, you did pretty good. So just fix the one fill and play your freaking heart out, and like just like go to whatever your limit is, and limit could be restraint. So restraint is one of the hardest things to do. It's just to stick to the same groove with no I don't know, where you're kind of improvising little licks here and there. You're just like Billie Jean style, like boom, sticking to a thing. That takes super balls, man. But that's kind of how I approach a take. I go all in. Pardon my French.
You're Norwegian.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to bleep that out or what your podcast etiquette is. I apologize for that, but just going all in, and knowing you can edit stuff later, is better than being scared and going, oh, I got to get this perfect. It's like, dude, I guarantee you 98% of the stuff you're listening to on the radio has been edited to like Beat Detective, putting all of your eighth notes perfectly on a grid. Like people are doing really, really, I don't know. I'm not into that. In case you can't tell already, but Rival Sons has never used a click track. So,
well, and I think that's why, so many drummers are drawn to you guys, and to your playing in particular is, drummers are good of, sniffing out the BS. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I can certainly tell when somebody's been, snapped to the grid, and I don't like that stuff either. Why not just use a machine? I mean, that's, and I don't mean to sound like a snob, but I want it to be real, and I love records that are pretty much cut live on the floor, and you guys are known for doing that. And again, going back to Dave Cobb, he's smart enough to let you guys be you. He's not going to, interject himself and change the sound of the band, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Cobb is great at that. He's and having done 6-7 records with him now, we have our pace. We have our rhythm. It's kind of there's a lot of unspokenness going on. Like we know where we're going. We know when something sucks and when something's great, and it's pretty rare when there's always one or two songs in the record where like one guy's going, no, we have to do this, and everybody wants to scrap the idea, and Jay might have a real strong feeling about something, and it's like, I think this last record we laid down like 20 or 25 ideas, and we're narrowing it down to 12. So and so when you have that many ideas going out there, it's like might as well see somebody's vision all the way through. I mean, it's like but the worst that's going to happen is it's going to get scrapped. But at least we could say we tried.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you bring up a good point, and I'm curious about this. If you track 20 songs, you got them to kind of the finish line, and you're narrowing it down to 12. What happens to those 8? Do you guys have a vault that you're keeping this stuff in for later use, maybe, or are you guys one of those bands that just say, yeah, it didn't make it, and it's gone?
Yeah, everything's on a hard drive, and we've joked about doing like a B-sides. We have plenty for like a double album of B-sides. So, and man, I would say I'm the biggest fan of the band. So like when we're laying stuff down and we're voting on if we're going to keep something or not, I'm like, yeah, let's keep it. It's cool.
Yeah.
And so, the biggest scrutinizers, I would say, are Scott, Jay, and Dave Cobb.
Sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Rival Sons live show. And so I'm gonna fully admit, I live in Central Kentucky, so it's not exactly the concert hub of the universe. Okay. And you guys have been through, Cincinnati, Louisville, Nashville. You guys play a lot. You're known for your touring. You guys work a lot. I have never seen clear to make it out to a Rival Sons show. I've either had a session or a gig myself. I just haven't had the opportunity to see you guys live in person. Now, I have seen tons of videos out there on the internet and all that good stuff. You are a monster player live. And specifically, some of the videos that I've seen, like I've seen you playing just a nasty Texas shuffle kind of thing, live, and it just grooves so hardcore. You guys toured extensively with Black Sabbath here recently. So you're doing some huge shows, but let's talk a little bit about how you approach, your playing live, because I think that's your element, right?
Oh yeah, I mean that's where we sort of that's where we shine is live, and we never do the same show twice, even if the same set list. There's always something different. Are you still there?
Yes.
Are we still on?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right, man. I understand. We're we're crossing the ocean today, so it's all good, man.
Yeah, I think I'm 9 hours ahead or something of you. So, the live show is kind of our, it's the eye on the top of the pyramid for us. Even though if you poll the band, we love the studio. We love making good records and making the albums, sonically pleasing. But the live show is just, it's our band is like an improvisational band in the vein of the 60s British Invasion, progressive blues and maximum R&B, like the Who called themselves. So we capitalize on that, like freedom. And so live for me personally on the drums, I do an hour warm up. I commit to a warm ups thing so I can go get in my own headspace for an hour. I jump rope, I do yoga, I do resistance bands. I have a practice pad kit. I do rudiments, paradiddles, doubles, and singles, and to a metronome. I mean, I nerd out. I do push-ups, I do pull-ups, air squats, I do kettlebells, whatever I can do physically to just break a sweat. And it gets me kind of in an animalistic pre-game linebacker. I love sports, and so I started studying a few years ago, like a lot of famous athletes and their warm-ups, and I found that there's a lot of overlap. And I wrote an article in Modern Drummer about warming up and stuff too, somewhere in the archives. So warm up is like my thing, and it also gets your muscles ready. You can injure yourself pretty bad, and a lot of drummers battle carpal tunnel and tennis elbow and aches and pains in their back, and they have bad technique, and they're absorbing all of that. Like your backbeat into the snare, and a lot of guys bury it right into the snare every 2 and 4, and you're just your arms soaking in so much, or your wrist actually. When you don't let the energy go up through your wrist, through your elbow, up into your shoulder, and back down again, with like a free flowing energy pattern. I've done acupuncture, I've had physical therapy, I've had so much body work done, active release therapy. I've had a lot of injuries, and so I'm getting to a point here, so bear with me. 3 years ago I started studying with Dave Elich, and Dave Elich changed my whole playing, my technique. He loosened me up, got my wrists. His whole thing is like wrist bounce, like not necessarily letting the stick do the work, but the letting the energy just happen. Like no finger pull up on the doubles. Everything is a bounce, and so like literally after studying with Dave Elich now for 3 years, I expend half the energy that I used to, if not more. Like I walk off stage after a 90-minute set, I can do 90 more, no problem. And so changing my technique was a big, it was humbling. I went back to doing double strokes at like 30 beats per minute,
Yeah.
So, eighth notes at 30, and just da, and those are bounces too. Like your first stroke is a wrist stroke, and the next one is just the stick coming up and back down again, and controlling it at 30 and working up to 35 and then 40, 60, and all the way up. You can set your metronome to like speed up every 8 bars, by 2 clicks or something, and spent hours doing that. And so I completely revamped my doubles and paradiddles and singles. Paradiddle diddles, and now it's like the chops are effortless, and I don't do gospel chops with Rival Sons, but it's good to know that you can do 30-second note phrasing over a slow tempo, and good to know you could do that.
Sure.
And who knows, when Erykah Badu or Rihanna calls me and wants me to do a track, and I can step up and do some gospel chops. But
well, I can't wait to hear that. I'll say that.
I could see if Rival Sons got famous, I could see me playing with Rihanna. She loves combining like hard rock. She's got Nuno Bentoncourt as her band director, her band leader. And he goes out there and does tapping solos, and a lot of the music is really a lot of convergence is happening, and I think Rihanna is really, really cool in that way. That she's very experimental. She did a Tame Impala song on her last album, like so cool. But yeah, I guess I'm kind of outwardly pitching myself to do a track on her next album.
Well, I'll give Nuno a call and let him know that you're available. So,
yeah. He's actually a fan of the band. We played a festival last year in the UK that Extreme was playing on, and they were doing like a reunion thing, and he stood side stage the whole set. And
that's awesome.
It was such an honor, dude. I was like, freaking Nuno, dude. So
yeah.
Cool.
Well, that dude he's something else, man. He was one of the greats during that era. I want to back up just a little bit, Miley, if I can. You mentioned something and you said active release therapy. I'm one of those guys. I think we're about the same age. I'm not sure. And I'm not going to ask you to give it away, but I started having some aches and pains, and I went down to Nashville and saw a cat down there, a physical therapist, or a chiropractor rather, that kind of wrote the book on active release therapy. And it helped me immensely. And you brought up technique and kind of relearning your technique, and starting your double slow again and things like that and taking lessons. I'm just curious, do you, I know you guys work a lot, but do you take on any students to help other drummers with some of that stuff?
I've been sort of brainstorming. I know a lot of guys do Skype lessons. I sort of, at this point, I would just, I'm kind of not a very good businessman in terms of lessons, because I would just probably have to charge so much, because my time is so valuable when I'm not playing now. And I got a wife and 2 kids, and I give them everything I have when I'm not on the road. And so, doing lessons. I've talked to all my drum companies about maybe doing a clinic tour. I'm just, it's not fake humility. It's just like, I've been to clinics, and it's over shredder mofos that can just shred. And I'm not a shredder. I'm a songster. I play songs, and I do it with feel. And I guess maybe I could do a clinic on feel. I don't know how the heck you would do that, but
well, yeah, I mean, I've been put in that situation, hey, would you come do a clinic, for one of the companies that I'm on the artist roster, and I'm like, man, that's not my thing. I'm not going to come in and do just some blazing solo and odd time metering and stuff. I was just like, I don't think there's a lot that I can add to the stew. You know what I'm saying? Find somebody that can shred, for sure. But I mean, I was just curious if you were doing anything like that. I know that prior to Rival Sons, you were in pretty high demand as a session guy. Are you still doing sessions for other artists as well?
No, it's, I put out a lot of phone calls last year. I got a TD50, a Roland TD50 sponsorship, and we got an Avid Pro Tools sponsorship. And I started putting out calls, to some producer friends I know that I do remote recording, where they send me the files. I record it in my studio and send it back. A lot of drummers are doing that these days. A lot of sessions, a lot of stuff you're hearing on the radio is the drummer is in his personal home studio, right, in the comfort of his own home. I mean, I follow Ash Stone on Instagram. He's a UK a UK session guy. Follow him on Instagram. He's always posting. He has a GoPro set up during his sessions, and so you see the footage of him actually playing the session. It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, he's a monster player too. He's great.
I wish if anybody's listening, I wish I'd get more calls to do records and stuff. But Rival Sons is I have a pretty decent career going with them, and we're really busy. So I'm not, thank God I'm not like hurting for work. When Rival Sons, we just took 8 months off, and I played 2 gigs with one band outside of the work. I just was like Mr. Mom, hanging with my kids and going to CrossFit. That's another thing I do. It's some people think CrossFit's bad. Some people think it's good. My coach is a Albanian Olympic weightlifting coach, and so I'm focused more on technique and stuff because if I get injured, if I get injured, I don't work. So it's very important to if you do CrossFit, find a good coach and go slow. Don't go heavy weights at the beginning. Don't do muscle ups. Don't do kipping pull ups. I don't know if that's Japanese to you or not, but CrossFit is a really great way to you go what the workout is. You get like the beginning of the class is usually some kind of Olympic lifting, and it's really good for your mobility and obviously cardio and strength. But if you just did CrossFit all light weights and never tried to go heavy, you're opening up mobility, opening up your shoulders. And when you play in an arena, you could be doing wrist strokes for this groove, but when you're in an arena, throw some Mahler technique in there, get your wrists a little bit above your head, because you're putting on a show as well. And you have to have your arms, you have to have mobility, to put on a show. At least in this band, I'm kind of a maniac. I'm standing up, sitting down, and jumping up and hitting downbeats and missing downbeats. And I just try to my personas, I hope comes off as I'm not trying to take myself too seriously. So, I like Animal from the Muppets. I love Keith Moon. I love the performance, style of Keith Moon and John Bonham, Ringo Starr, those old Beatles live footage that you see is Ringo's just like smiling and having a great time. He's like, I'm in the best band in the freaking world. Like, people want to see you having fun. You're lucky. You're blessed to be playing drums for your job.
Oh yeah.
It could be worse. You could be, dude, I've dug ditches. I've retiled and regrouted floors. I've regrouted bathrooms and painted houses, painted warehouses. So I worked as a painter and tile. I've done so many, bartended, bus tables, waited tables. I've done everything, worked my ass off to get to the point where I could make a living as a drummer. And so, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
well, the big joke with me and a lot of my buddies, I say the worst day of drumming beats the best day of working, so, I think, I think that's what you're saying there.
Yeah. And Charlie Watts, there's a quote, Charlie Watts, it's, I don't get paid to play. I get paid to travel.
Yeah.
And,
yeah,
it's like, I'll play anywhere. I love playing, but the travel, man, we just did an 11-hour bus ride from Oslo, Oregon. And it's literally through these tiny 2-lane roads, through mountains for 11 hours. So, you're tossed around the bunk. I actually slept pretty well. But thank God. Because
Yeah.
if you don't, sometimes if you wake up and you're in a real rough part of the drive, or maybe there's construction and you're just blah, 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 you're just like, I cannot go back to sleep. So then you just wake up and read, or go. Sometimes I go sit up with the driver if I can't sleep and just talk to the driver and keep the driver company. We have the same driver for 5 years here in Europe, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know touring in Europe has its own set of difficulties, as opposed to the States. And, it's hard on you. I mean, I know that. And I know you enjoy the shows, but that travel part is definitely hard. Miley, I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to take up too much of your day. I appreciate you taking the time. But, one of our traditions here on the Drum Shuffle is we always ask our pro guests, for just a good piece of advice, so for all the drummers that are out there listening, share a good piece of advice with us.
Well, I don't know if I said it earlier, but I mean, warming up, staying in shape, getting mobile in your body, getting your body strong. And I'm not talking about becoming like a bodybuilder, muscular and all that. I'm talking about staying fit is a really, really important thing, man. And I read an article on Kenny Arnoff a while back. And, he was, I don't know, he's like in his 50s or something. And he does yoga every day, stays in shape. And you watch that guy play at, whatever, he's like 55. I don't know. He's playing like he's like 22 years old, man. And he looks great. And he's playing with everybody. And he's flying all over the world. And he's got so much energy. And you just see it in him. And he's like fit, healthy, eats right. This is not, I mean, it's easy to get, it's easy to watch Uncensored, the Motley Crue documentary and go, yeah, man, I want to party. I want to, coke and whores, woohoo, it's really, this is a really tough thing to do touring. Like I was just talking to Jeff Friedel, drummer of Perfect Circle, good friend of mine, and they had like, 3 or 4 fly dates in a row. And you're talking like you're playing from 9:30 to 11 and you're going to the airport at 5:30 a.m. So you just do the math. Like you have your post show. Sometimes I do some icing. I'll crack a beer and just chill. But then you got a flight in 6.5 hours. And then you get to the hotel and the hotel room's not ready. And it's like you need to be fit and in shape. And if you are unhealthy, all that stuff's going to catch up to you,
Yeah. For sure.
So yeah, staying fit, choose your poison, whether it's CrossFit or just running. I ran 2 marathons and 2 half marathons in the last 4 years. And, just putting that in my schedule just makes me go, okay, I got to wake up and I got to go running, and then I studied this CrossFit endurance guy who does ultra marathons. And that's how I discovered CrossFit, to get strong for running. And so Jay and I will go running 3 or 4 times a week together on tour. Jay's my singer. And so just having a fit mindset, if you like having beers on the road, just make sure you go run 5 miles tomorrow, like have your beers, like don't be too hard on yourself, but yeah, I would say, staying physically fit is a good piece of advice. Be humble. Don't be a jerk. You're going to get more work being a cool person, and being a lesser of a player than a way better player who's a total dick, Yeah. You'll probably get more calls than that person. So, yeah, and being nice doesn't mean being a pushover. I mean, they say the meek shall inherit the earth. But if you look at the root words of meek, or where it comes from, it means the sword is sheathed. So you still have a sword, but you keep it in the sheath, so you're still a badass, but, but you're such a ninja that you don't have to use your sword. You know, that's what meek actually means. It doesn't mean like, oh, I'm a wimp and I'm a pushover and I let people walk all over me. No, it's meekness is strength through peace through strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I mean, that's great advice. And, I'm happy to say this, Miley, you're one of the nice guys in the business. I mean, seriously, you've been just so accommodating to me and our show, to make this work. And I really do appreciate it. I want to go ahead and extend the invite when the record drops. We want to have you back. So that we can absolutely, talk about the record. I can't wait to hear it. I'm really looking forward to it. The big thing, you guys enjoy the run over there in Europe. I know you're over there, I guess the first part of July. You got some shows with Guns N' Roses. So for our European listeners, go see these guys right now. Now, after the record drops in September or October, I'm assuming you guys are going to be hitting it pretty hard over here in North America as well, right?
Yeah. So to answer all that, I would love to come back. Hoping to maybe we can share you some snippets of some of the new songs or something, or maybe stuff will be out on iTunes for like pre-order stuff, and we'll be releasing a single in August, so we can talk about some of the stuff on the new album. I'd love to come back and yes, come out and see Rival Sons. We're on the road in Europe. We're doing dates with Queens of the Stone Age. We're doing dates with a lot of great bands, obviously Guns N' Roses. And then, we'll be in the States hopefully around September. We're putting some dates together, some ideas together. And we're hoping to blanket the States. So there's been a lot of regions, a lot of people yelling at us on social media to come to their states and come to their cities. So we're doing the best. You only have like what your agent... you're at the whim of what your agent books. So it's not like we choose our tour schedule. So we go where they tell us. So
yeah, for sure. Well,
and usually, not to be business minded or whatever, but usually it's where you're going to sell the most tickets. And so if we don't go to your city, it's because we're not like polling well there. So, I mean, it's politics too is involved. So don't be too offended that we don't go to your city. Hopefully you can jump on a train or carpool with some friends and make a road trip out of it. A lot of people come see us and they're like, they drove 8 hours, 12 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours. But in Europe, they'll take trains, for 4 hours from Hamburg to whatever. And like, I used to go travel. I followed the Grateful Dead for a few years when I was a youngster, a young, crazy wackadoodle.
I don't know why, but that doesn't surprise me about you, Miley. We had never talked about that, but for some reason that does not surprise me, and that's awesome.
Oh, dude, I'm a crazy Deadhead, man. I'm a huge fan. I toured with the Dead after Jerry passed away. I played Jerry's memorial at Golden Gate Park with Mickey Hart and Santana, Sheila E., Babatunde Olatunji, Zakir Hussain, all the members of the Dead, Wavy Gravy, Timothy Leary. I met them all. I was like 20 years old, and to be a part of that, dude, was like, that was epic. It's totally epic.
I can only imagine. I mean, there's an episode of this show right there. We'll have to have you back and just do nothing but the Dead for an hour.
Oh man, I would, dude. Billy, Europe '72. It's just Billy. That's one of my favorites. No offense to Mickey Hart, but Billy Kreutzmann, man, that guy could swing, and he had chops for days. And yeah, once I realized like Miles Davis was a fan. I was, huge jazz aficionado drummer, studied jazz my whole life. And when I found Miles Davis was a fan, sorry, turning this water off. When I found out Miles Davis was a fan, I was like, okay. And then Branford Marsalis was playing with them in LA, and my roommate took me to see him, and he's playing soprano sax with them. And man, I'm like, these guys got street cred from a lot of Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan sat in with them all the time. You know what I mean? They musicians, talk about what a great guitar player Jerry Garcia was, and so, yeah, obviously we could talk a long time about that.
No doubt, man. Well, we'll have you on this show anytime you have time for us, brother. We will geek out on the Dead for an hour anytime you want to do that. So awesome. Well, Miley, again, thanks so much for the time. I really do appreciate it and making this work out. We're 9 hours apart. I know it wasn't easy, so we really do appreciate it, but we'll look forward to having you back on the show when the record drops. You guys have a great run over there, and we'll talk to you real soon, brother.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And if you lasted this long, hit me up on social media and say, hey, I listened to the whole thing, and we'll try to arrange a handshake somewhere out and about.
Cool. Miley, thanks so much, brother.
All right, dude.
All right. See you, man.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for episode 22 of the Drum Shuffle. As always, we appreciate you listening to this show. Please hit the subscribe button to whatever platform you're using to listen in. It helps us tremendously to continue to grow. We really do appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts over here at the Drum Shuffle. Next week, we are going to be joined by just a truly inspirational drummer, great jazz Afro-Cuban guy. His name is Dafnis Prieto. He hails from Cuba. Just doing fantastic work out there. Can't wait to have him on the show. So you're going to want to make sure you tune in for that. And coming up shortly after our episode with Dafnis, we're going to be joined by the jazz legend, Peter Erskine. So you're definitely going to want to hit those. So hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. As always, keep your emails coming to us. We love hearing from you. The Drum Shuffle Podcast at gmail.com. Our web address is thedrumshuffle.com, and you can find more information about me over at jamieeads.com. So until next time, may your heads stay strong and your sticks never break. Cheers.